a rare award that has only been granted once in
Oh,
the
thank
history
you.
of the guild.
Is it
Um,
Wampler's?
no, if there was an award for banging Wampo's mom, then I don't have enough trophies.
Probably be Zug Zug.
That's just messed up.
That's a penny
So
machine. What are you
only
talking
once
about?
in the history of the guild has this been achieved, and it was by a former officer named A. And this particular award goes for Player of the Year goes to Ursa for 100% perfect attendance in Warlords of
Ooh.
Draenor progression.
Ooh.
So
Very nice.
I have elected to buy and mail him his very own Zug mug from the swag store, but I am going to need help designing it with the most awful, horrendous puns and things that you can think of, because it will be a custom. It will be a custom chalice for he who has given us so much. We will give him back the same level of just truly abysmal
Awfulness.
punishment that he deserves.
Go. Yay, congrats!
Aww.
Oh.
Hey, can I have guild mascot yet?
We
I'm
need a
just kidding.
sandwich first.
Oh my god.
So, in all seriousness, no, grats to Ursa. That's absolutely ridiculous. That dates back to way before we even started doing attendance. He literally was there for our very first raid in against. Oh, jeez, what was it? What's the name of the boss?
Primal.
Agra?
Kagura. Yeah, Kargath. Yeah.
That
Um,
was fun.
Yep, very first raid all the way until the end. And I definitely would also give you the title of most improved raider for the year as well.
That's
It's marginally above average adequate now.
um, yeah, I think Rav also had perfect attendance for the time he was on the team, but Ursa is literally at every single progression raid, the entire expansion, every boss kill, every single one of them. So that's why I give him major props. Like I said, he's only the second person in the guild's history to do that. So moving on to the next topic, and I'll make a post or something, and we can think of some truly awful things to put on his chalice of victory. So the goals for this meeting tonight are as follows. Number one, I want to compile a list from you guys, and I'll be presenting my own ideas as well on secondary guild objectives to add on to this expansion. So obviously, we set out this expansion to defeat all the bosses on normal mode at the beginning of the expansion. Um, we achieved that very quickly. We upped that ante to heroic difficulty, and we've achieved all of that as well. And in a lot less time than we would have thought it would have taken us. So our primary progression objectives, we've been absolutely killing this expansion. That's awesome, and that is absolutely thanks to all of you guys. But once again, Blizzard has put us in a position where we have a severe content drought, and it's forced us to look at what we want to do for the rest of the expansion. Um, that doesn't necessarily have to be anything. Seneca messaged me today and said, "Hey, I really appreciate it." He wrote me a nice little comment saying, that how much he appreciates being on the team and everything, but how with the new year starting, he really wants to take a break and focus on his work until Legion starts. And I respect that and I understand that. I think a lot of people are probably going to be thinking along similar lines. I know Crusade has had to do the same, so that's totally understandable, and I get that. So that'll be our first goal, though. Is what do we want to do? I want to get ideas from everyone and get a really firm understanding of where the community's at, both on an individual and collective level, so that we can plan properly for this. Um, the second thing is I want to review the goals that we had for Warlords of Draenor and start the discussion for Legion on what those goals are going to be. Are we going to be maintaining the same objectives, or are we going to be, pushing harder? Are we pushing too hard and we need to scale back? Those kinds of topics will be evolving over the next few months as we approach the expansion. But it's good to start that discussion now while things are fresh in our minds from the previous raid tier. That kind of segues into probably the most important thing I want to emphasize tonight, which is that the Hellfire Citadel surveys are out for the previous raid tier. You do not have to have been on the team, and I think there's some people who are not in the raid team that are here tonight. You do not have to have been on the raid team. Honestly, all we're looking for is feedback from the community to help us improve. So if you haven't been around for multiple tiers, HoZ at the end of every tier puts out a survey. I call them reflections on the past tier, and asks you to kind of look back and examine what's happened over the last time period since June in this case, and take a look. If you're new to the guild, I'm really interested in hearing about your experiences joining the guild, what that was like from application to to raiding to being a part of the community, whatever. And if you're a veteran of the guild, what's changed in this time, how the guild's evolved, for better or for worse. And constructive criticism is really the emphasis here. These surveys are absolutely pivotal in shaping the direction of the guild for the next tier, the next expansion, and going forward. Um, some of you will remember that you know that there was a big kind of shift in many ways in kind of the overall attitude and atmosphere from BlackRock to present, and a lot of that was on the backs of the feedback that we received, and some of the policies and implementations and the changes to the way that we lead and the way that the guild progresses is a direct result of those opinions. So that's it is really really valuable to us, and it is a substantial amount of effort. So there are 3 different ones I'd ask you to fill out. One is on community, one's on leadership, and the other one is on objectives and goal completion. In other words, are you wasting your time, or are we actually getting done the stuff that we say we're going to do? And those 3 things. This time I actually split them into 3 separate surveys. That way you don't have to do all of them and submit it at once. You can actually kind of think on each different topic. So it's a little less overwhelming. You can do them one at a time. And we're going to be offering 300 effort points for each of them. Now the catch is that effort points are essentially useless at this point because we're going into a new expansion and we always reset effort points at the beginning of each expansion. So we are going to actually offer those into the next expansion. So we're going to hold off awarding those right now and actually give players who are returning players the opportunity to get a little bit of a head start when the new expansion after the reset goes in. So you'll be basically arrayed in a little bit ahead of all of the new people coming in if you've taken the time to fill out the survey and give us the feedback on the previous tier. So first night of raiding, you'll have a little bit of leg up over anyone else. Typically, we also offer a second opportunity for effort points before raiding by being heroic raid ready. Going into the very first tier. So there'll obviously be more to that when those expectations come out a little later on. And that's pretty much it for what the meeting's going to be going in on. So any questions at all so far on any of the stuff that I said? Okay, cool. So the primary topic again for tonight is going to be to compile secondary objectives and kind of just discuss generally what you guys are interested in doing the rest of the expansion. Are we, some things to consider in this process are we interested in raiding 2 nights a week, 3.5 hours a night? What content do you want to see done? What are your priorities? Whether they be, is it even World of Warcraft? Are other games a priority? I know a lot of people are excited about Overwatch, for example. How do you want to spend the time that we have, and what are meaningful accomplishments that we can do as a team that you might not necessarily be able to do on an individual basis? So I'm going to throw out the first idea here, and I know a lot of you have thought a lot about this. I'm interested in hearing all the ideas, but I'll get it started. My suggestion for this meeting is going to be that um, I would like to see an emphasis on achievements, specifically the glory of achievements for Warlords of Draenor. So that would involve two different meta achievements that would go in and get a very unique mount that is only achievable by doing all of these sub-meta achievements. All of them are obtainable on any difficulty, normal or higher, so obviously we could scale back the difficulty to make it easier on us. And we'd go through all the bosses in High Mall, Blackrock Foundry, and Hellfire Citadel, and do the mechanics a little bit differently in order to gain an achievement. Um, my suggestion would be that we probably reduce raid times, give everyone a little bit more opportunity to relax. Maybe cut an hour off of raid time each night, focus on one or two achievements, and then call it an evening. And the nice thing about that is that East Coast people are not getting off at midnight, for example. It gives us an opportunity to go branch out, play other games, try other things. And for example, having a challenge mode group that met after each raid night would be a really cool thing to be able to have as well for people who are interested in a little bit more hardcore progression content. That's something I'd personally be very interested in. And then, as we move through those achievements, knock out, one or two of them a night, and that puts us a little closer to the end of the expansion. And then as we approach that end of the expansion, more and more people are getting beta keys. We can start looking at organizing some PTR nights, some, Public Tales Realm raids or dungeons or, early access stuff, so that we can start strategizing for the next expansion. So that's just one idea, of course. At this point, I'll kind of open the floor up and let anyone, present their ideas, comment on what you like, what you don't like. The most important thing that we can take away from this is that we know all of your opinions on things. You don't have to offer, a suggestion, but I would like, through either whispers or through, speaking up and talking, just to hear what your opinion is so that we have a good idea.
Yeah, that would have been my first thought too, is doing some of the meta achievements for the mounts. I mean, personally, I've never been in a guild or any kind of group that was able to do it while the stuff was relevant. So personally, I think that would be an amazing idea.
Me as well.
Me as well.
Same.
We already counted Bell, I'm pretty sure.
Cookie.
Mounts.
Well, the one nice thing about reducing the raid hours until the end of the expansion, obviously, I think this 7 hours, and this is, another thing for your feedback that I would really like to hear. And I don't think I included that in the guiding questions on the side, which, by the way, when you go to do these surveys, which I really hope that everyone does, I'm not going to force anyone to, but obviously I would really, really like to, but I'd really like to see as many people as possible. One thing to note in there is that if we did reduce the like an hour off of a game time, it would open us up to play a lot more games and do a lot of different stuff, which would be kind of cool.
Well, I know I'm going to be moving here in about 3 weeks, so reducing raid time is probably not a bad thing. Just until I can get that all situated, I'll still make it to raids, but it'd be nice to get some stuff put together. But I'm all for the metas at this point, or even gearing up my warrior or my DK.
I mean, heck, even going through some of the older content for the metas would be fun. I don't know if any of you guys have the Siege of Orgrimmar or any of those metas yet. Personally, I don't, but that would be nice to take one night every couple weeks or whatever and just do the old metas. That would be kind of nice too.
I guess I'll throw it out there. I know that my goal sort of for the rest of expansion is to start pushing into mythics and start trying to get some of those bosses down. Obviously that's going to require a lot of recruitment and everything like that, so I'm not sure where everyone else is on that, or if there's a few people or other options available too that we can maybe work to incorporate that.
Just out of curiosity, how many people is that exciting to?
I would love to do Mythics if it were an option. I didn't think it was.
Everything's
I'd
an
be
option
interested in seeing
as long
what
as
goes
there's
down.
enough involvement.
I'm down for Mythics if possible.
You know, the thing about Mythic, and I have a lot of experience with very
It's
hardcore
hard.
raiding. Um, it is very hard. Um, we're talking spending months on a single boss, wiping. It also involves, and this is one of those rare times where, um, you know, I will say, you know, very, you know, strictly, this is not something that you take light. This is a hardcore atmosphere. Even right now, it's also a dangerous precedent because what you move into is you, we would have to make sure that we understand that we're not a mythic guild because you can't possibly compare doing mythics right now to what mythics would be like if we started, you know, Legion and immediately we're like, well, we were a mythic guild last expansion. I couldn't tell you there must have been 15 mythic guilds going into Warlords of Draenor, you know, that had completed SOO on mythic. Not one guild completed Hellfire Citadel on mythic this expansion.
Well, and also the difficulty with Mythic too is I know I started doing a little bit of pugging with it with another raid team over the holidays there, and it is a lot of wipes, and it kind of sucks when you get down the boss, especially for the first like 4 or 5. If you're pretty much geared out at this for heroics, those first 4 or 5 bosses, a lot of that loot is minimal upgrades.
It
So it's a
is.
lot of work, and you don't see a lot of rewards at the end, which is kind of frustrating for some people, I think.
But it is the best rewards for sure. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
and
for sure.
it's also that's I mean, if we decided to go that route, and I asked you to bring that up out loud because it's a worthwhile discussion. Because if there was a lot of interest in doing that, yeah, we'd need to add about, you know, 7 players to the roster for sure. And we'd also have to dramatically change our policies. I would not allow you to call in sick the day of. You know, I just would not be allowed. You would not be allowed to be on the team if you're gonna, you know, make sudden changes to your schedule or if you have.
If people are interested in doing Mythic, I'm willing to jump in and try it. I don't know if it's my thing, but my concern is more going forward um, into Legion, what we actually carry forward and how the culture is and what kind of people we have for that.
Yeah, I'm already at around 35 wipes on Iron Reaver. I've been on 3 or 4 raids with him right now, and it's just like you pug 1 or 2 people, or 1 people are off their game, and they'll wipe the raid.
No, like 100% absolutely. It's, you know, it's very challenging. You know, and the rigidity of it's really the problem. If there was, you know, flexible nature, the difficulty isn't what's so scary necessarily. It's really the inflexibility. We have a culture where a lot of people on our team have very serious demanding jobs and families and commitments, and things just come up. Like, you know, and we want to be understanding of that as much as possible. Um, and it's definitely that's a really big challenge, and I think you know you articulated my point better than my foggy-headedness could, when you said that, you know, you don't want to see a radical shift in culture for the guild, you know, just for a couple months of progression. Um, you know, and I think the key discussion point is if we wanted to go mythic now, the goal would be next expansion to say let's, you know, continue along that path, or let's, you know, try to push for server ranking, not necessarily number one, or but, you know, like let's try to push for speed progression. And that's not been an objective of this expansion, but if that was something that there was enough interest in, you know, doing. Um, so, anyway, all of those, you know, I'm very interested in your feedback.
I'm honestly a big fan for the flexibility of this guild. It's probably what the major staying power is for a lot of the people. I would love to push for speed progression, but honestly, I don't think we could do Mythic. With how flexible and laid back our guild is now, the switch to Mythic would destroy the guild. I think
think
we
it
would
would make it-
easily lose half of our current raiders.
This
I
thing
think
would
we've
make
gotten
it more
kind of
stressful.
I think we may have gotten a little confused here. I think people's interest is in Mythic based upon our current gear for the current content as from now until it's time to start, until the next expansion comes out. Unless I'm missing something, that's the impression I'm getting. But so I don't want to confuse the two topics if that's true, because I believe this guild has been and in my opinion should continue to be what it is. We're serious about our rating. We do our as far as showing up, getting our heroics done, and having a commitment. But we also have the flexibility, and that's just our foundation. So, am I wrong in that assumption? Is there anybody who's expecting or thinking we should push for that into the next expansion?
I think everyone's on the same page. I think that the fear that people are articulating is that if let's say we have 15 people on our team right now. It's a pretty accurate number, somewhere between 12 and 15 in any given raid night. Um, we're looking at upwards of doubling our roster, and we'd need to add around 7 members. So not really double, but those players would be of a different mindset than the culture we have right now. And then those other people who necessarily weren't looking to do Mythic would want to step down, and we would need to replace them with people of a different mindset as well. So all of a sudden, going into the next expansion, we have a conflicting set of values that are held by the members of the guild. And I think that would be the prime concern of people, is that we've shifted in terms of attitude and atmosphere. Um, we want to make sure there's not irreparable damage going, because it is hard to all of a sudden flip the switch back now and say, okay, hey, we're going to allow a lot more casual behavior and such going forward, and then those people who were recruited under a different mentality all of a sudden say, hey, you know what, this isn't the culture that I was was brought into and was excited about. So that's really the fear. I think that in terms of mythic rating, it's got to be something that's kind of an all or nothing approach. We really have to have a serious desire to want to do that. And in the reflections, if that's the overwhelming consensus, then that's fine. That's a direction I'm happy to take the guild if that's the case. I certainly really love hardcore rating. It's a lot of fun, but it is going to involve a pretty radical shift in the culture, and my gut instinct is telling me that that's probably not what the majority of players are going to be pushing for.
Are there guilds on the server doing serious mythic rating? I mean, it sounds like
Lake Effect.
24. Lake Effect's the only one, real one.
Yeah, and they're not even halfway through, I don't think. I think they just made some progress, actually. I think they're around Gorfiend now. But even them, they've been doing mythics for 5 months now. Four
Yeah,
four
several
months.
months.
Yeah, they're 4 months, and they haven't even killed Gorfiend, I don't think. Um, so I mean, that's some serious shit. Like, I mean, hundreds of wipes per boss, going in there. Um, so it's serious business. Um, Worse yet, they've been plagued with roster problems the entire time, and that's not fun for anyone. It's a lot different being in there and wiping on bosses versus being like, oh, we're down another healer. Oh, we have 2 trial healers in our raid tonight for mythic progression. Um, that's an issue. I mean, hundreds per boss. So let's table the mythic discussion right now. I asked to bring it up because I think it's something that's worth discussing. I want to see that information in reflections and in comments to me. You can always email me and write to me, and bring that up. It's a discussion that is definitely needed to happen, but like I said, I think that needs to be an overwhelming consensus among people in the guild. And the officers are going to make an effort also to reach out to every single person on the team individually, on the raid team. Probably wouldn't be able to do it to all 200 something members of the guild, but at least of the people in the active raid team, to have a one-on-one discussion to give you a chance as well to talk about these things. I'm sorry, did I misinterpret a question?
Someone asked about who's mythic rating. So just Lake Effect. I think Lake Effect's the only one left on the server, I think.
Yeah, Saga broke up. They're no longer active. There's a couple alliance guilds, and then there's a couple guilds that don't have rosters that pug. And I will personally tell you, as a raid leader, someone else wants to raid lead, awesome, but I have no interest at all in running a 8 to 12 person guild roster with 12 pugs in it every single week, and just trying our best to fill spots, and then just I know like Saiyan, for example, they pug mythics, but they have like 10 people show up, they pug another 10, and then they just sit there while someone screws up a mechanic. They just kick the pug, bring in a new person, and everyone just waits around for 50% of the raid. To me, I value my time too high for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that sounds like a colossal waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that we can get through 3.5 hours of raiding with a 5 and a 10-minute break, and I feel very confident in our, success and efficiency in that.
Well, and I played that way for a lot of the normal and heroics that I did before I joined Zug, and it's frustrating, waiting and waiting and waiting until you get the right people enough to get the job done. So.
Right, it's maddening. I'd not be interested in doing that personally. I'm interested in building a community, not facilitating chaos. Okay, let's talk briefly about okay, let me ask real quick before we move on. Are there any other comments or suggestions? So far, I brought up challenge modes as something I'd be very interested, especially for the more hardcore players. It would be interested in doing that.
I'm keen for challenge modes.
Same.
Awesome.
I'd really like to do that.
Not to speak out of total ignorance, but I don't have any experience at all. What exactly would challenge modes entail?
Challenge modes stick you at a specific item level with a group of people, and you have to go through and complete the dungeons on a specific difficulty as fast as humanly possible.
That sounds like.
So you have a pre-assigned 5-man, and you have to try to defeat like a whole dungeon in like 12 minutes, and to get the difficulty. So you bring invisibility potions, you bring blah blah blah. You'd actually, a lot of players farm a very specific set of gear of like blue gear because it scales you back to like 630 item level. So you can actually basically farm any piece of gear in between there, since it's going to scale your stats back to make sure you have a perfect array of stats. And you basically go in there and there's guides on Icy Veins and other places where you can learn how to do speed runs on them. And you unlock ridiculously cool transmog items for doing it, titles and things like that. And those items are exclusive to this expansion. You will never get them again unless you do them now.
Yeah, that would
yeah,
be
200 swords awesome.
I'd be in for that.
And
So,
pretty much all of the transmog gear that you get from it is animated transmog gear. So like the two-handed sword will light on fire and stretch out, or the bow will just
awesome.
suddenly grow and things. They look amazing.
They're really hard, though. I will prepare you for that right now. They are extremely challenging if you have never done one before.
Right, absolutely.
I got half of them done last X-Pack, unfortunately, so I never got to get the ones from last X-Pack.
Yeah, I think I got up to
Sporting
silver
that
on
gear
a
all
few.
expansion. Yeah, they're definitely bragging rights items, and I would say that those are comparable to Mythic difficulty, in terms of skill set. So I mean, you got to be a really, really talented player, really, dedicated to doing them. And so that's why I say, I bring that up as a suggestion because it is a really nice way to get that hardcore buzz, if you're interested in it. Especially if we were doing a couple nights a week of just regular achievements, casual, fun achievement runs. And then broke off into subgroups. Hey, let's go play Overwatch. Let's play StarCraft. Maybe one of those nights we could do. We finish up all our achievements. And we go, okay, hey, let's go concentrate on this new dungeon, and we'll grab a 5-man group of people together and go concentrate on challenge modes. I'm all for that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I really enjoy the more hardcore nature, and especially in a smaller setting. So all good suggestions. Were there any others that haven't been brought up at all though that things that people would be interested in, not just individually, but like there would be, things that would be really fun for the group of people to achieve.
I said it a little quietly before. I don't know if people all got up, but doing like some of the old metas for the older mounts that their guild in general hasn't gotten would be pretty cool.
Yeah, for
Hell,
sure.
I think all the way back to Old War, I think you can still get those mounts. I know they closed out Nax, but I think you can still get the Proto Drakes and all that for.
You can solo all the Iljor ones.
But having more people just makes it easier, quicker, and you get it done with more people.
To a point, there's some achievements I'd rather do with one.
Yeah, it brings
Yeah.
a good sense of fun to like the whole big group, though. You know what I mean? Like, oh look, we all got a fun new mount tonight! Yay!
No, absolutely. I will tell you that one of the most rewarding things we ever did as a guild. Hold up, sneeze. Sorry. One of the most rewarding things we ever did as a guild was getting our 25-man heroic drakes from I guess it was Dragon Soul and Firelands, something like that. We were a 25-man heroic guild back in the day, and that was just so much fun because we were the only guild on the entire server that actually went and did it. And it's so cool just flying around the cities and everyone on the same mount and taking pictures and stuff. It's really great. Not only is it good marketing, but it's also just great for morale for the guild. It's a lot of fun to do that kind of stuff, and it's not too super hardcore. You can have a beer and raid. Doing those achievements.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, if there's anything else, feel free to message me privately. Everything's on the table for sure. Just want to get as many ideas as we can out there and get an idea. Like I said, we'll be reaching out to each of you guys, and I hope that you take the time to reach out to us as well in those feedback surveys, because we will go through every one of them and discuss every topic as officers. It's completely confidential in the sense that it'll go to all three of us officers, but every one of those will be discussed in the light of trying to improve. So I highly encourage you to give feedback. Positive's always great. People have a tendency of saying a lot of nice things about us, and I really appreciate that every time. But constructive criticism is really what's gonna push us as a guild to be better and to reevaluate some of the things that we've done in the past and in a new light. Yeah, one thing I'm not going to do is make a poll. I don't think this is a majority rules situation, because what ends up happening in majority rules situations is you get, 6 people that want to do this, 5 people that want to do that, and, it ends up that, we don't really have a team cohesion at all. So I want it to be something that we can all agree upon as a team that we want to pursue. Okay, so moving on to the last topic of discussion, and that is Legion. Moving into the next expansion, are there any goals or anything in particular that you'd like to see done or focused on? I would like to add that there are some new features coming out in Legion as well. Well, those are all excellent points. I see where you're coming from. Hopefully we can, come to some kind of conclusion on that.
It sounded like you just cut off, so...
We thank everyone for messaging Baratar with your requests.
Oh my god, I know, right? Let me ask the question in a different way then. Is heroic difficulty flexible rating gonna be, is that generally the consensus on what people are looking for into the next expansion? Is that kind of the general tone that the similar progression and just hope that Blizzard comes out with content a little quicker?
I personally love the rate we're doing it. I know I came in late, but it's been a lot of fun. I love the progression and what we've been doing.
Likewise.
Like, same here.
Yeah, I think hero should be our cap.
Although, you know, I was interested when you said earlier about mentioning some sort of, you know, speed or looking for a guild ranking on some things. And I think that there may be a way for us to put some goals on that. We do have seems to me, a good core group of people, a good core team for normal and heroic modes. So I'd be curious to see if there's interest in that, and if it's how feasible it is. Not having done an expansion launch with you guys, I don't know what the norm is, but I would definitely be interested in that if that was proposed.
Give you a little bit of an insight in how expansions work. Generally speaking, um, you know what, I'm just going to say this in an arrogant way. House of Zug kicks ass at the beginning of expansions. I'm not talking about progression or anything. We had 56 applications in the very first month of November in the previous expansion. We are active, we're engaged, we have a great community, and tons of people relog on and explore the game. But I think because we have a infrastructure in place that other guilds don't, an application process, those kinds of things. We do a really good job marketing ourselves at the beginning of expansion. So I have every confidence that we're going to just crush it. We're going to see, absolute surges in numbers coming into the new expansion and really capitalize on that. Rob and I last expansion just absolutely worked our butts off, at the very beginning, really marketing the guild and making sure that we had a really nice big roster, that we were capping raids almost immediately off the bat. So that's kind of what the expansion looks like going in. There's always a big huge surge, and unfortunately that's just the way that these things go right now, is that things kind of fall off, and then there's a whole nother generation of players that comes in, and a whole nother set of interest, a ton of returning players, a ton of new players. The entire fabric of the guild always looks different every expansion. The best thing that we can do is kind of try to maintain our values and our culture so that people know what to expect when they do come back. But it's absolutely bonkers. Like, it's awesome. New expansions are just so much fun when the guild restarts. It's just a lot different culture. Like, it's the culture of the entire game shifts. Right now we have a falling subscriber environment, where it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. In a rising subscriber environment, when there's just tons of people looking for guilds, people are going to flock to the guilds that have the best face and are offering the most in terms of I guess professionalism and stability. And I think we have a really good strategy. We are now the longest standing Horde guild on the server, continuously rating one. And we have over 5 years of consistency. So I think we have a really good narrative to tell, especially for returning players. My prediction for next expansion is that you're going to see a lot of really high quality players returning and not interested in doing mythics at all. I think there's going to be a lot of hardcore players who have been really hardcore in the past, that their guilds broke up, their communities broke up, and those ties were kind of severed. They come back to the game and they're saying, what, I'm really looking for a 2-night flexible guild, but I'm a super like high quality player, and I'm really looking for that. Alrighty guys, well, as always in these town halls, I spent 90% of it talking and no one has any comments, so is there anything else anyone would like to add before we wrap this up?
There were some comments.
Actually, it was much better than always. In fact, my whisper count is only 15 unique conversations, which is actually pretty impressive.
Considering there's only 21 people logged in the guild.
Yeah, that's 6 whole people who didn't whisper me the entire raid. Or the entire
I know
meeting.
who you are. Fix it.
Right.
Oh, I've been talking in vent, but
Hey
hang on, I'll
guys,
whisper you.
Hey, this is Dell, and I don't get to raid or hang out with you guys, but you sound like a pretty cool group of people. I used to raid with my sister Zizaba a couple years ago all the time. I wouldn't consider myself a mythic or great raider, but we used to have a blast. And I would love to do it again, but I'm not a really good high stress raider.
Friday night flex.
Friday night.
I know.
Friday.
I'd say even for the
Is
rating
that
that
the
we do,
only flex night we
it's
have?
not terribly stressful for what we actually do. Is
Yeah, we don't tend
pretty
to
well
actually
done.
stress out during the raids either.
Yeah. You know, the reason that we do Friday Night Flex and the reason it was on a Friday is that it doesn't coincide with really any other guild's raid schedules. So one of the principal goals of Friday Night Flex is really that we want to, outreach to a lot of players, especially players who would be interested in, kind of coming over. So what we get on Fridays is a lot of, players who tend to be a little bit more hardcore, might have alts, especially towards the beginning of a tier. Not so much at the end of the tier, like right now you don't see this as much, but at the beginning of any tier, you see a lot of players who are looking to level up alts, play, and are really engaged in that, that have a very high percentage chance of being like, oh wow, like, this pug group is, actually better than my mains group, and I'd be really interested in learning more about them and, joining up on the progression team, things like that. So, we just find that a lot of people almost there's not really any community in the guild that raids on Fridays. There's very, very, very few. So as a result, we find that the most we can maximize the number of people who are, online around the exact same raid times as we'd normally do. And there you go. I joined. How many people, just out of curiosity, joined House of Zug because of Friday Night Flex?
I did.
This guy.
I basically did, but I was looking to join a little bit before it, but the Friday Night Flex is what got me to join.
There you go.
Yeah, I just
Both of
joined
our
recently.
officers.
We're a bunch of
I mean,
suckers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not the only ones that got sucked in.
Let's now. Wampler's mom
I know
isn't in the
myself
raid yet.
initiated.
So, well, I think that just about concludes it. Only thing I want to emphasize again is those the feedback reflections are seriously humongous help to us. We really take them very, very, very seriously, and appreciate the time you put into them. Plus, it's 300 effort points towards the next expansion, which is awesome because you can get looped on the first night.
You get priority loot on the first night.
Exactly. Which means that if you're attending every raid, you're gonna get your tier and weapons first.
No weapon.
So with that said, I will turn it over to Rav to get the groups all set up and ready to go. If you guys need me, obviously you can get a hold of me on my phone. I'll be in the house, hanging out, doing stuff here. So, if you need anything, just hit me up. But I think you guys are more than capable of handling it. So, I think Iridan, Dyer, and Ursa are probably going to be articulating most of the raids since I'm not there to lead the melee and offense. I'll let Dyer kind of articulate that. Iridan's going to be raid leading. Rav's got the loot and attendance, and Ursa obviously on the healing side. So you guys have an awesome night, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to contribute to the discussion, and looking forward to reflections and things going into the future. So I will catch you guys later.
Goodbye,
See
Daddy.
everybody as well. I got stuff I gotta do. Family is calling.
I thought you locked your car and the keys inside her truck.
That too.
That's
Yeah,
what
I thought.
That's what he has to do.
Family's calling.
I have family stuff as well. My family is what's driving me over to my boss to go get the key.